So example 19.4, cereals linked to chances of conceiving boys. Well, media loves grabbing sensational headlines. Here, breakfast cereals boost chances of conceiving boys. Okay, so read the two paragraphs there. They're short, and then come back. Hopefully you noticed an important word right here. It says a survey of 740 pregnant women. Okay. They're saying cause and effect, but we've already said that there are a lot of other things that could be going on. There are lots of problems with this research, quote unquote, research study, but the media will, like I said, will always grab the interesting stuff. So this is just a survey, and it also says just slightly more likely. It's observational. Remember, they're not assigning which pregnant women eat cereal and which pregnant women do not for breakfast, and then or eating breakfast cereals in general, and then figuring out which gender the babies come as. So they're applying cause and effect when it definitely does not exist. It's observational in nature, cannot do cause and effect. So you may be thinking, how can we ever legitimately draw cause and effect conclusions? Now, we can draw cause and effect conclusions by assigning subjects to treatment groups. So this is the explanatory variable in such a way that groups are likely to be as similar as possible. So we want to make the groups as close to the possible in every way, except the only way that hopefully we're going to try to get them as similar as possible. So the only way they differ is in the explanatory variable. Then we see if we see a significant difference in the response variable between the groups, we can conclude that the explanatory variable is causing the difference in the response. So what does this mean? We're looking at this case an experiment. An experiment versus an observational study. An experiment is a study in which the experimenter actively imposes the treatment, and that, in other words, that explanatory variable group on the subjects. Ideally, the groups of subjects are identical in all respects. Now, we can't have them absolutely identical. People differ. Everyone is a little bit different from everyone else, but they're going to get them as close as possible. So the researcher can then see the direct effect of the explanatory variable on the response. Ideally, random assignment is the preferred method of assigning subjects to treatments in an experiment. This gives each subject an equal chance of being assigned to any of the treatment groups, and in doing so, attempts to create experimental groups that are as alike as possible, except for the treatment they receive. So the only thing we're trying to get them as similar as possible. So the only thing that varies is that explanatory variable. An experiment that uses random assignment to assign subjects to treatments is called a randomized experiment. Subjects that participate in an experiment are often called experimental units. Don't worry if you accidentally call them observational units. In general, we'll say experimental units when we do an experiment. Observational units would be with, obviously, observational studies. So let's go back to that SAT example. But we're going to flip it around a little bit. So the Washington Post mentioned a different study in which one essay was given to many graders. I don't know why I have the word all there. I apologize. Some graders were shown a cursive version of the essay, same essay, by the way, and the other graders were shown a printed block version. Okay, so it was the same words that were in the essay, except that one was written in cursive and the other was written in block letters. Researchers randomly decided which version the grader would receive. So the grader didn't get a choice in which one they would receive. So if they really preferred to read the block printing, that's taken out of the equation because they are randomly assigned one of the two. The average score assigned to the essay with the cursive style was significantly higher than the average score assigned to the essay with the block print. Interesting. So it was still higher. First of all, what type of study is this? Is it an experiment or an observational study? And briefly explain why. Well, researchers randomly decided which version the grader would get. Are the researchers controlling who gets what? Yes. It's a randomized experiment. The treatment was imposed on the graders. The graders didn't get to choose whether they graded cursive or block print. They were assigned one of the two to grade. So whether the grader saw the cursive or print was randomly assigned. The experimental unit is now not each SAT taker. Whose behavior are we studying? And hopefully you think, well, oh, it's each grader. Explanatory variable and response variable. So the response is the score as it was before. The score given or score assigned, and that's quantitative. The explanatory now is whether assigned a cursive or the print. And that's categorical binary because there are only two options. Notice once again, the experimental unit is not the SAT taker because remember, it's just one essay that's either written in cursive or written in block letters, but it's the same essay and it's given to different graders. What conclusion would you draw from the second study? Be clear about how this conclusion would differ from that of the first study and why that conclusion is justified. We can now say that there is cause and effect, that writing style has an effect on the grade. And it all goes back to the fact that it's an experiment and not an observational study.